All right, welcome everyone. Think we're ready to get started? Great. Welcome, I am Fatima Moore, and I am here along with my co-chair, Dave Bartholomew. In a brief minutes, we'll go around and do some introductions of the nominating committee members as well, so that you know how to say those who are here volunteering their time as well. And I apologize if you hear me coughing. I am not contagious, I am not sick, I cannot get rid of a dry cough. So don't be afraid to be in the same room with me as well. So along with the nominating committee, we are serving as the Metropolitan Council nominating committee to help the governor determine who will be sitting on the Met Council for the next 4 years. We thank you for joining us for this evening's public meeting, either in person here in Savage or streaming online. On behalf of the nominating committee, we would also like to thank Mayor Janet Williams and her team of wonderful staff for hosting us at Savage City Hall. Thank you very much. We have a cohort of candidates that we will hear from over the course of the evening. Each candidate will have 10 minutes for their interview. Within those 10 minutes, candidates will answer 3 questions we sent in advance and answer any follow-up questions from the nominating committee. There will be a staff member keeping time, and they will give the candidates verbal notifications as well as a visual at the 2-minute and 1-minute mark. Please note, we will also take a break or two during tonight's interviews, depending on how the flow goes and the candidates who are available as well to be interviewed. We will keep those 2 minimum so that we can keep the process moving forward as well, so that as you are all here as well volunteering your time. At the conclusion of the interview process on Tuesday, January 31, so next Tuesday, the nominating committee will recommend a group of candidates to the governor's office. The governor will make the final decision on who will represent the Metropolitan Council and has until March 6, 2023 to do so. So now, so that you know who is also on this committee, we will go ahead and go through a round of introductions, and we'll go ahead and start with the folks on my right first and then move our way down all the way to the left.
David Dively.
Melissa Manderscheid.
Adriana Jarab.
Ahmed Ali Noor.
Heidi Garrido.
Hi, I'm Dave Bartholomew.
And Fatima Moore.
Anna Williams. Molly Cummings.
Sam Rockwell.
Paul Gardner.
Chelsea Glavitz-Gabio.
Jim Erickson.
Great, thank you all so much. We're all excited to be here with you today. We had our first round of interviews yesterday at the Met Council office in St. Paul, and we're happy to come over here to Savage and spend this evening with you. So let's get started with the interviews, and I'll just go through a little brief information about what to expect as well. First, we do have District 3 interviews. First, we'll invite candidate Stephen Adams to come and join us at the table. So is Mr. Adams here? Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. And I'll wait for you to take a seat. We obviously have some water, so if you feel inclined to pour a cup, please do. And I hope we're not intimidating, right? We're all smiling faces and are excited to hear what you have to say as well. Welcome and thank you for your interest in the Met Council and serving as a council member. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last name, and share your pronouns if you would like. Before you do that, various council members will ask you 3 questions you received ahead of time. Your 10-minute time will start once the first question is asked. All right. The first question will be asked by a member here, and then we'll take turns till those 3 questions are asked of you. And so with that, I'm going to stop and allow you to introduce yourself, and then we'll segue into the first question.
All right. I'm Steve Adams, A-D-A-M-S. Preferred pronouns are he and him.
If you would like to give a brief intro yourself, and then
Has this committee received my resume? And so you
correct, yes. So all interviewees, members received the entire packet that you submitted.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just happy to be here tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to interview for this position. District 3 is where I've spent much of my adult life, and I'd be happy to represent that district on the Met Council.
Great, thank you. And we'll go ahead to the first question.
All right, I have the first question. Good evening. The first question of 3 is, what policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
Well, there's really 2 that I've been concerned with, and that's largely because of my experience serving on the Hopkins School Board, but also serving as a planning commissioner in the city of Minnetonka. I think the first one that I'm concerned about is affordable housing. One of the things that I have seen in the district, in the school district, is that affordable housing has a direct impact on kids' ability to learn. One of the things that we've noted is that students that spend a lot of time changing housing do not do as well in school. And, you know, sometimes they're moving because of employment issues with their parents, but quite often it's looking for affordable housing. And one of the things that we noted is that any child that spends 3 years within our district, 3 continuous years, has much higher test scores, has much higher achievement. And for that reason, we'd like to have more affordable housing within our district so that parents could afford to stay there and give their kids an opportunity. I guess one of the other things that I've been concerned about is transit. We've got a fair amount of open enrollment into the Hopkins School District, and we've got students coming from outside the district who are not currently served by our school bus system. So I'm concerned about their ability to get to their school without having to use the school's resources. And I have actually lobbied MTC to try and change a bus route so it goes to the high school so that our open enrolled students have more access, and their parents too. I mean, grandma from North Minneapolis would love to see her kid play football or, you know, be in a choral event or a band concert or something. So it would serve not only the students but their families. And then the other reason I'm concerned about transit is having served on the Minnetonka Planning Commission, I've noted that we've got an aging population in the city of Minnetonka. Our residents prefer to age in place. Now, they may stay in their house, but they can't necessarily drive. So how do they get from one place to another within the city? And that's been a concern of mine for quite a while. And it continues to be. I thought we would have people moving, but they have not been doing that. And so we've got a aging in place population. And on the other side of it, we've got young residents moving in who would prefer not to own a car. So we'd like to serve them as well. So at both ends of the spectrum, we've got transit concerns.
Okay, the second question. Council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with shareholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with community and business stakeholders.
All right. I've done a fair amount of that already as the member of the school board. I attend all the state of the city addresses that I can that serve in the municipalities that we serve. And the Hopkins School District serves 7 different municipalities. So there's a lot of engagement that's required or desired, I guess. And so, you know, I've attended those. I try and maintain relationships. I'm on a committee on in the school district that meets with city leaders on a quarterly basis. And I'd like to continue that sort of contact as a member of the Met Council. I think the first thing that I would do is meet with the mayors and city managers in the 16 cities that are within the District 3 and try and ascertain what their concerns are. And I think also to rebuild some trust. The Met Council is not perceived really in a favorable light by a lot of city officials. And I think it's going to be necessary to rebuild that trust in the future, to get any commitment from the communities to our initiatives. And then I think also to present and meet with civic groups within District 3, whether it be Rotary clubs or church functions, church groups, whatever, to understand what their concerns are and hear from them what they think the Met Council could do for them. And then I think lastly, or maybe firstly, I would meet with with Jennifer Munt, a previous representative for District 3, and get her take on, what she thinks the issues were, at least when she served within the district, and maybe get some advice from her as to what the future concerns should be for District 3.
Thank you. Now, a third question is, what have you done to advance equity in your district, community, or an organization you have worked with?
Well, I've done quite a bit, and it precedes my being on the Minnetonka Planning Commission and on the Hopkins School Board. I remember going to a out front lobby day at the state capitol one time to lobby for same-sex marriage at a time when it was still not very favorably viewed by members of the legislature. And that was quite a education, I can tell you. But at the same time, I'm active in my church, which is Spirit of Hope in Golden Valley. And we were one of the first churches in the state to become what the Methodists call a reconciling congregation. And I was pushing for us to become a member of the reconciling movement even before it happened. And I remember in 1995 approaching our pastor and our council, administrative council, urging them to become members as a congregation of this reconciling congregation movement. It took 10 years, but they finally became a reconciling congregation member in 2005. So we are fully inclusive of all LGBTQIA plus members, and they've been welcomed into our congregation. I've also attended numerous Hopkins Race and Equity Initiative meetings, and those have always been enlightening. And former Mayor Molly could probably tell you how productive those meetings are, but I've been active in those, I think, for about 10 years. And then on the Hopkins School Board, I was on the board when we elected our first black superintendent for the district about 6 years ago. Also, our first female Muslim school board member 5 years ago. We have committed to hiring more staff of color, and we've done that. Not as many as we would like, but we've just about doubled our staff of color in the district. Supported the Indigenous Parents Group for Native American parents. And I continue to try and recruit more BIPOC school board candidates to run for school board. I attended Invictus meetings. Invictus is a group that meets regularly at our high school. It's for black boys. All right, black boys to try and get them to realize that there are a lot more opportunities for them in life than they've currently been experiencing. And to that end, we've had black attorneys, we've had black physicians, we've had a number of black professionals attend those meetings. and just try and point out to them what the options are. It's not all just being a rapper or being a pro basketball player, which a lot of these young boys are fixated on, quite frankly. So we're trying to make sure that they're aware of their other life opportunities other than those. So it's something that I've been very committed to, and to being inclusive, not just, for BIPOC community, but for our LGBT plus community as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adams.
All right.
And with that, we want to thank you for spending the brief time with us to learn more about you, and look forward to hearing more about what will be going to the governor's office soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we do have Tyrone Carter. If you're in the room, please proceed to the table. Welcome, Mr. Carter, and thanks for your interest in the Met Council.
Well, I'm honored to be here. I'd just like to say good evening, Vid Winoxen, and buenas noches to everyone.
Thank you. Could you please introduce yourself by saying your full name,
Okay.
spelling your last name, and then share your pronouns with us as well. And then
Okay.
we'll go through that same process of give a brief intro and then our round of questions for you.
Okay. My name is Tyrone Ellis Carter, and my last name is Carter, and my pronouns are he and him. And I'm a veteran. I'm a Vietnam era veteran. Also, very proud of that. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
So we'll go ahead and start our questions.
Okay.
All right, good evening. I have the first question. What policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing, and why?
Okay, I'd say housing, and I think housing is important because it's fundamental. I mean, we all live in a house, and as a person who grew up, family of 7, and we had a 3-bedroom house, and my aunt and uncles were living in there at the same time with their young family. And so I think at one point we had like 6 of us in one bed, so, but, we were happy. But the thing is, that's a fundamental right, and your housing dictates the kind of schooling, because there's a tie-in with the school district and the quality of education and all those things, and also your neighborhood that you live in. So I think housing should be a fundamental right in this country, and it's very important because it helps shape you, who you are. It has an impact on your family, and it's something that it's a fundamental piece of the economic wealth that's passed on from generation to generation. Most of the wealth in this country, a great portion of it is passed on through housing, and so I think we have a unique problem in this area because you have many kids that grow up and they can't live in the same neighborhood that they grow up in because of the price of housing has really gone up so much. And so that's an impact that crosses all lines, and I think it's something that we have to be aware of. Also, in looking at the housing policy, I looked at the housing plan summary, and it says for safe, stable, and affordable housing is essential for people to work productively, and for children to learn, and for individual families and communities to thrive. And so I would say part of my role would be advancing the outcomes of the Thrive MSP 2040. And that includes stewardship, prosperity, equity, livability, and sustainability.
Council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with the community and business stakeholders.
Well, I think I would have a kind of a back to the future approach. Years ago in political circles, you did a lot of talking and meeting over coffee, and actually, if you go back history of Europe, a lot of things were done in the coffee houses. And so I kind of would like to meet with at least half of the member cities served in District 3 for at least once a month for coffee. So it's more informal, and sit down and exchange ideas and concerns, because you can't really address any concerns that people have if you don't know what they are. And if people are not listened to, then they feel like they don't count. So, my father taught me, 1, 2, 3, everybody counts. So it's very important that you get all the input from all the member cities, and they feel like they're not being squeezed out because someone's being favored. And once you have all the information, then you can act and try to formulate something that everyone supports. And that's liable to fly, as opposed to having something that favors a narrow few. So, and the ones that I can't meet face to face, obviously, I'm not going to be able to meet all 17 every month, but I'm going to have kind of a rotating approach to it. So I get everybody in, and I also stay in touch via email and telephone to try to build a dialogue and gain an insight into their concerns, their problems, their goals for their respective cities, because it's just like a tailored suit. Everybody has different concerns that are driving them and driving their people. And so I think you have to be able to authentically go forward with something that works for everybody.
Thank you. So what have you done to advance equity in your district, community, or an organization that you have worked with?
Well, before I started to go forward and become more active, I thought I had to start on a fundamental level. So I started volunteering to help local politicians get elected, knock on doors. And one of the first ones that I volunteered to help was Kissy Coakley. And I was happy to say that she wound up being elected the first African-American female in Minnetonka City Council. And one day she was kind of coming by, and my wife said, I think you should meet her. And I met her, and then I just kind of did it ground up. I made the time. I have a small business, America's Fun Science. I provide science and STEM programs to a lot of entities. And so I just carved some time out to do that, because I think if we all put a drop in a bucket, eventually that bucket's going to fill up. But if we wait for everybody else because we think, well, our drop's not going to make any difference, the bucket never even starts to fill. So that's one of the things that I've done. I've also served on a DEI committee for Minnetonka, and I did that for over a year. And every year I have a free summer camp for kids that can't afford to go to camp. And I've been doing that for 3 years. When I was a kid, I was poor. I couldn't afford to go to camp. So I said, one day, I'm going to help someone else. And this year, I think this will be our 4th summer camp. In 2023, we'll conduct that for the 4th time. And I've also done fundraisers for DFL. I did a fundraiser for them this past year, and I'll be doing another one in 2023. So,
thank you.
Members, do you have any clarifying questions? Great, not hearing any. Any closing remarks you'd like to share with the committee?
Well, the only thing I want to say is I'm happy to be here. It's an honor to be here, to meet you guys, to know that after going through COVID and all the things that we've been through the past 2.5 years, that, government's still functioning and everybody's still stepping forward to do their part. And I'm glad to be even a small part of it in terms of just even meeting you guys. And I'm honored. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. And next we have Melissa McNeil. Oh, that's right. That's right. Jerry Pitzrick. Hope I said your last name correctly as well. Please feel free to correct me. Good. Okay. My English grade teacher would have been really happy about that. Great.
The thing about my last name is that you won't confuse me with all the other Pitzricks.
Yeah. Or maybe like Fitzpatrick, I'm assuming people often want to call you as well.
Right.
That's what came to my mind at first. Well, thank you and welcome. Thank you for your interest in the Met Council and serving as a council member. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last name, and share your pronouns if you would like.
Yeah, I'm Jerry Pitzrick. It's spelled Pitzrick. My pronouns are he, him, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you folks today, and especially to meet you in person. But I think, like most of us, we're a little tired of Teams meetings, and so it's nice to have a more direct personal contact. So thank you.
Any opening remarks you want to share with us before we dive into our
Sure.
questions?
I'm the civil engineer. That's probably the only civil engineer you're talking to over this week. So I come from a background of the construction industry, and I'm a small business owner. I've had a consulting business for 25 years where I've worked with projects, well, all over the country and elsewhere. So we'll just leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. I have the first question. What policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
I served on the Eden Prairie Planning Commission about 12 years ago, and that introduced me to the whole comprehensive guide planning process, and that's something I'm very interested in. The housing component as well as all of the other pieces that fit into that. And I have an extensive experience in developments, not a huge amount on the housing side, but I have been involved in housing developments in the southern part of the country, in Washington, D.C., Hawaii, a whole bunch of different places. So I have a very diverse background in the development process. And one of the things that I think that could improve the service that the Met Council provides to the cities is to deal with some additional expertise on some of the challenges that the cities take on in that comprehensive guide planning process. Like in Eden Prairie, we developed a plan for a town center, and there's a high voltage transmission line that goes right through the middle of the town center with a 160-foot easement that was not taken into consideration as part of the comprehensive guide planning process. And so it has an impact on the success of that town center. And I think the Met Council is the right place to bring some extra expertise forward on issues like that. Also, I've seen that there's a new interest in solar energy and really promoting renewable energy as part of the planning process. My wife and I, on our house, we have a 12.5 kilowatt solar energy system on our house. One of our cars is an electric vehicle. I've worked with over 2 gigawatts of renewable energy projects throughout the United States and Canada. Most of them wind turbine projects, but also a solar energy project in Southern California that was over 1 million solar panels, covered 6 square miles of ground. So I've seen a lot, and I think that one of the things that we can look forward to is we try to promote solar energy in our communities, is that there are limitations when you put solar projects on houses. And just because of sight lines and roof orientations and those kinds of things, but there's a lot of opportunity on big box structures, office warehouse kinds of buildings where there's a lot of big flat roofs, and I think if we can promote doing something in those kinds of situations, we can really make a difference. One of the challenges there might be, though, that Xcel Energy right now doesn't have a very good reputation on bringing online the solar garden projects. And the kinds of projects that I'm thinking about are kind of halfway between the homeowner projects and the solar garden projects. And so through the PUC, we'd probably have to work with Xcel to make sure that they're buying into bringing on more solar energy on a lot of these projects. So that's an interest of mine, all of that as part of the comprehensive guide plan. But the area that I think I could help the most and have the most interest in is helping get light rail back on track. I've been involved in a lot of rail projects, and just as an example, I've worked with WMATA, the Washington Metro Area Transit Authority, for about 15 years on various projects of theirs, providing different consulting services. I've worked on 5 different rail projects, 2 maintenance facilities, 2 garage facilities for their bus systems, new software update for the bus drivers on their bus system. And I think with that kind of background, as well as a lot of other things that I've done, I think I can help deal with some of the challenges that Met Council is facing And I think that's really important right now because we have to up the credibility of the council moving forward. If we're really going to be successful, there's a lot of negative publicity out there right now, and I think I can help kind of steer some of that back in the other direction. That, you know, in late 2021, the Legislative Auditor's Office did a report where it identified that there was a pretty significant issue between the Met Council and the design firm, AECom. And I haven't seen any outcome of that. It just defines that there's a pretty significant issue there. And then last year, there's another report from the Legislative Office that identifies or kind of summarizes a lot of the cost issues associated with light rail and the schedule delay of light rail. And what we've heard out in public is that the light rail budget has increased about $700 million since the original contracts were awarded for the major civil construction. Well, in that legislative auditor's report, it identifies three major things that have been driving the cost changes. One was adding the Eden Prairie Station. The second was the barrier wall between the light rail and the freight traffic. And the third was the foundation changes adjacent to the condominium project. When you total up those three changes, they come to about $135 million. That's a big difference between $700 million and delaying the project by over 3 years, which is the total situation. So I think the legislative auditor's reports that are going to come out this coming spring, there's going to be a lot more information in those reports than's been made public up to this time. And how we take in that information, how we review it, how we respond to it, not only with what's happened, but how the Met Council moves forward is going to be really critical to our long-term success. And so it's not only taking care of the Southwest Light Rail, but it's also looking forward to the Bottineau project and other rail projects. The experience that I've had working with people as a consultant, I think has been changed, or was defined by an experience I had a long time ago with the lead professor of the construction engineering department at the University of Wisconsin. He asked me, he said if I would be willing to lecture to his contracts class. And I said, yeah, that would be really interesting. I'd like to do that. I look forward to talking to your students. And he paused for a minute and he said, oh, that's good. And it'd be even better if you'd talk with my students. That was over 30 years ago, and that has really stuck with me. And so that's the approach that I take with people on the consulting services that I've provided to many projects, and that's how I would approach dealing with the light rail, is talking with the staff, really getting their thoughts and ideas on the table, asking a lot of questions, offering some information based on what I've seen on other projects in other areas, and then moving forward with that. So that's what I would do.
Okay. Council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with community and business stakeholders.
Okay. My wife and I closed our business last year. We let people know 18 months ago that we would be doing that, so I have a lot of time. And I would commit to 20 to 40 hours very easily for the traditional duties of a council member. I would start by meeting with the mayors of each of our communities, and then I would meet with Mr. Zelli and find out from the staff who to meet with to get an understanding of how the staff interacts with the community members, and also ask the mayors how to most effectively interact with their community, and then take all that together and move forward. Beyond that, I would also commit to an additional 20 to 40 hours to help the light rail situation.
Thank you. So what have you done to advance equity in your district, community, or organization that you've worked with?
Okay. I had to write down a few things because over the years I've done a lot of diverse things. I was a mentor for Hmong senior high students a long time ago, where I would meet with one student once a week throughout the summer to introduce them to what they could really do, that they were in a very poor community area where they didn't understand how they could even fit into the rest of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. So I did that. I did a lot of recruiting at Mortenson Company. That was my one other employer other than being self-employed. And in 1985, we would hire people that just kind of came in off the street at the right time. Well, I started a recruiting program at various universities all around the country, even though that wasn't anywhere part of my job description. And
1 minute remaining.
recruited a number of women and minorities from HBCU colleges around the country. And also I started a program with the Minneapolis School Board where we had a career day at North High School for the construction industry. And it was a great success, a lot of fun. We had engineers, we had architects, we had contractors, we had building trade unions representatives there, and it was really a good experience. And one last thing. We're a family of 3. Our daughter is 43 years old. We adopted her when she was an infant from Korea. We've had lots of experiences with diverse groups. With a Korean adoptee, over the last 3 years, issues with the Asian community came up on multiple occasions. Our daughter is also on the autism spectrum, so we've met a lot of people in the autism spectrum community, and our daughter's gay. And so we've met a lot of people associated with a lot of different things related to diversity. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Pitzrick. And with that, we'll move on to the next interviewee.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. Thank you.
Jim White. Welcome, and thank you for your interest in the Met Council and serving as a council member. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last, and share your pronouns if you would like.
Sure. My name is Jim White, W-H-I-T-E. I bring about 45 years of experience in government and public, and as well as elected office, as well as staff in Minneapolis, as well as in Orono and Washington County, and then in the private sector, the last 20 years in the private sector. And so I've kind of been around. I know a lot about government operations and how working together with like-minded people, you can get a lot done. And it's a commitment I feel is very satisfying and motivating for me personally. And it's actually incumbent on all of us, as the speakers have said before me, that if we improve our cities and our communities, we'll all do better. Leave it better than you found it.
Great, thanks for that introduction, and we'll move on to our questions.
Good evening. The first question is, what policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
Well, I've worked with all the policies in the Met Council, either before them for issues I've been working on, or else and other parts of it. But my real passion is basically in really water resources and parks and open spaces. But these policies are all threaded together. It's like spokes on a bicycle. If you can't get them to all work together in a coordinated way, the council will never reach its goals of trying to manage the growth of the Twin Cities in the 7-county area efficiently and effectively. So you really need them all working. And whatever part I would end up playing, I would be part of. If the council needed more help in one area or another, I think I have enough experience in all of the 3 or 4 areas. Certainly Orono has about a third of the lift stations in the whole system, and we every year is another one we have to build, and you guys are doing the same thing. Let's see, what else is it? Yeah, I guess to understand, and parks and open space are very important, of course, because they really provide a sense of place for a community, venues for people to meet and feel identified with the community they're living in. And of course, green space has a lot to do with good water quality. and I'm a personal home. We live on Lake Minnetonka. We've dedicated with a conservation easement the first 20 feet of our whole frontage of the lake. It's all natural plants, and we bring natural shores every year to come in and plant things that are native to this area. And when they had the big floods in Lake Minnetonka, about 2014, the neighbor properties, all their lawns were dead. Ours were all green, because those roots go down 9 inches, 9 feet, and some more than that. So you have to start with your own personal commitments to these things, and then you go into the next level. But working in Lake Minnetonka, I was the deciding vote on the regional park that's at Lake Minnetonka right now. And it had been a fight for years to whether, you're going to let in the outsiders. And we finally got it, but that was the deciding vote. And then we also did the LRT line from Hopkins to Victoria and Hopkins to Shakopee. And there were people who fought that too. And we were in the room when we said, I remember saying to one of the mayors, I said, well, remember there's a nursery rhyme, the cheese stands alone. The rest of us are all in favor of this. And they finally jumped into it. And that mayor later on said that was the best trail they ever built. It kept everybody tied together. And nobody stole their TVs or their bicycles. It wasn't that kind of crazy stuff. So anyway, I'll let that stand as it is. I could talk forever about parks.
Okay. Second question is, council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and for district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with community and business stakeholders.
Sure, I'll start with Minneapolis. I was part of the original committee that set up the identification of all the neighborhood organizations that were going to get funding from the city under CDBG rules. And we had a policy that the city council asked me at that time to figure out a policy of how we afford to do this equitably with all the neighborhoods. So the policy I came up with, which they adopted, said essentially we get the data from the census and decide how many housing units are in low quality in Minneapolis. Where are the low quality housing? And secondly, where is the highest incidences of poverty in Minneapolis? And thirdly, what is the income levels? And then how much is the population? That was the fourth issue. And so we really put all the money in the ring. We took the worst first, and we worked on that, and we brought back the north side, we brought back the south side. We spent a lot of time and money doing that. And they still follow that policy today. It works all the time. And the neighborhoods get a share of that, of city resources and block grants to make sure those neighborhoods aren't starved out. And I guess the other issue is when we did projects like the Quarry Project in Northeast, we wanted to put a shopping center in the north side, northeast Minneapolis, because there was no grocery stores. They were all leaving, and everybody was shopping in Roseville or Edina for groceries. And so we got a proposal, and I suggested we take the old city Johnson Street dump. But when we did this, we said we're going to have opposition, and we sure did. We had 240 people at the first meeting saying, not in my backyard. So what I did was I got permission from the city council to set up a committee of every neighborhood in north and southeast Minneapolis, all 15 organizations. And we said, we'll put them all into this committee and we'll give them the resources it takes to understand what our issues are and what theirs are. And what we did was we had monthly meetings, and we said the neighborhoods that are the closest to the site will get twice as many delegates to this committee to keep it fair. Because, if people said, oh, I love to do this, but you're across the street from your house, you want to make sure your voice is heard. When we got done with that project, we had 8 months of that project, and they came up with a telephone-sized, directory-sized list of things they thought they needed to make this work for their community. And they had 20-some proposals that they wanted us, demands they called them. And I told them if they said they didn't want it done, I would support that before the city council. And I did. and the city council accepted them all, and it was built, and we hired over 2,000 people to work there. It won the national award as the best cleanup in the United States, beating out at the time into 1995. We beat out the Army, General Mills, City of Worcester, Massachusetts, and a couple other towns. But it was, and it's still, and today the two owners of the biggest stores in the Quarry Shopping Center tell me that their national stores have at least 1 month every year since it's been opened. It's the top site in their whole business. That was Target told me that, and so did Home Depot. So that worked, and we did that when I did the Sears project, which is the largest project that any single thing had been done in Minneapolis. We had 1.9 million feet of housing, and we had to put in all sorts of citizen review, and we did a similar policy as we had to do there in northeast Minneapolis. And that worked. We ended up with a project that stabilized the neighborhood, and it was heartbreaking to watch the riots go through and people damaging that and the transit station, which we all were so happy to have. And in that project, I'll tell you about that in a minute when you get into equity.
Well, thank you. So we did that already. No. What have you done to advance equity in your district, community, or organization that you have worked with?
Okay, in Orono, we hired the first female city council member, but we don't have a high minority population. It's very small, unless you're a professional. We have famous basketball players and baseball players. But we achieved several things. We purchased the Big Island Vets Camp, which opened that up to the general public on Lake Minnetonka, the Big Island. And the vets got an endowment to work with the money they got from us and the legislature. We all pitched in. And they use that around the whole state of Minnesota for vets out district who would never get to Big Island to camp, for heaven's sakes. And so the vets were happy, and we got a regional park there for everybody. And then we also, as mayor, I had the city council and the staff meet in work session together. And we treated them all as equals. We said, hey, just shout out to us if you don't like what we're doing. You tell us we're making a mistake. 1 minute? So we worked that way, and it was an unusual way to run a city, but it really brought the staff together with us, and we avoided all kinds of issues we wouldn't be aware of. The Public Works said, well, wait a minute, we can't do this, or that, and so planning would be talking to us directly, and we really made a better operation. It was really a lot of fun, actually, to work that way with the staff. So I better get into equity real quick if you want to get into that. On the equity?
Yep.
Most of my career has been with the low-income and disabled neighborhoods. I'm disabled myself. I got injured coaching basketball, teaching school in an inner-city school in Minneapolis when my ankle was split out, and I have to wear that 52 years later. Probably saved me from the draft. My 3 brothers served, but the Marines told me they'd take a good dog first. However, there's innumerable times I've worked with all different groups. I've hired, promoted, and mentored LGBT individuals, Asian Americans, Latino Americans, Hispanic Americans, Mexican, essentially, and Latinos. There's quite a few differences, as you know. Mm-hmm. And so we've all worked together and done a lot together. At Sears...
Mr. White, if you could just close up your final sentence. The time is up, unfortunately. Any final remarks?
No, it's an honor to consider it. I would think it would be a really good fit for all the experiences I've had. And I've enjoyed working with you guys over the years. And our project that I worked on last at Fine Associates was the poster child for your transit development and 5 years ago. So I was happy to work with you guys. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for spending time with us. We'll just get ourselves situated and we'll transition to our next district, which is District 4, to begin our next round of interviews as well. So give us a minute. Get your documents together, yeah? Did I? No one's not here, right?
Knocked it right over for you. Keep your hand off my knee.
There is a better chair there if you want one. Do you want a higher chair?
I know, I'm just flailing about.
Who's me?
An empty one there if you want it.
Yeah, we can do this. All right, I think we're ready to get started again. Welcome. We are moving on now to District 4 interviewees, and before we ask you questions, we want to make sure that we go through our round of introductions again for the committee. So we'll do that first and then proceed with our questions for you as well. So we'll go ahead and start on the far right again with intros.
David Dively.
Good evening, Melissa Manderscheid.
Adriana Jareb.
Mohammed Ali Noor.
Heidi Garrido.
My name's Dave Bartholomew.
Fatima Moore.
Janet Williams.
Molly Cummings.
Sam Rockwell.
Paul Gardner.
Chelsea Glavitz-Gabio.
Jim Erickson.
All right, and if I'm guessing correctly, you are Deb Barber. Look at that, and your name tag says it as well. What a good guess, huh? Well, thank you and welcome. We are thankful that you have shown interest in the Met Council and serving as a council member. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last name, and share your pronouns if you would like.
Absolutely. Good evening and welcome to District 4. Thank you so much for your time and your commitment to serving the region by volunteering for this nominating committee. We know it takes a lot of time. I'm Deb Barber, B-A-R-B-E-R, she, hers. I currently serve as the Metropolitan Council member representing this district. I was originally appointed by Governor Dayton in 2015 and reappointed by Governor Walz in 2019. I live in Shakopee with my husband and 2 children. I'm a business owner, an engineer, and an active community member where I've been involved on boards at the school, city, county, and now regional level. I'm really proud of the role of the Met Council serves in the region and the work that we do to better our communities. The current council has done great work, but I'm hoping to get another opportunity to serve another term.
Great, thank you.
All right, I'm asking the first question over here. What policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
Thank you. When I talk about the role of Metropolitan Council when I'm out, I speak about the interconnectivity of the regional systems, how people succeed when they have a good place to live and reliable infrastructure. What I've learned through my service is that good education, a prosperous economy and workforce, and healthy communities don't happen in silos. The success of the communities and the people really relies on the success of the region. But with that, I would say if I had to focus on one key issue, my focus really has been transportation. I'm currently the chair of the Transportation Committee. The effectiveness and integrity of our transportation system is really crucial to our success as a region. We have work to do to maintain, rebuild, and expand our transportation systems. This includes our rural freight corridors, our suburban connectors, our urban hubs, and our transit system. During the pandemic, we had to adapt and change and react to so many things. So we're coming out in a different phase now, and we have to look at our transportation system a little bit differently because the way people travel is changing. And we need to be very cognizant of that and very thoughtful in our planning and how we move forward. One of the key things that we did recently was we adopted a new policy. It's our Transit Ways Advancement Policies, and it's really designed to look at those big projects internally for our ABRT systems, externally for our light rail systems and the highway BRT systems. I think one of the key things I want to focus on is now the implementation of the policy. It's always great to have a policy, but it doesn't mean anything until you start putting it into practice. And the way I see that, and I come from an engineering project management background, is it's really just taking the smart time to make the right decisions, to make sure we're building the right things in partnership with our communities. So that is one key thing I want to work on. The other piece of work that I really want to focus on over the next few years is how we rebuild back our transit system. We did have to adapt during the pandemic. We know ridership was down. The hardest thing ever was to tell people to please don't ride transit if you don't have to. And now we have to try to change that narrative. But it's an opportunity, actually, to look at building back service the way it should be to serve the people in the best way and manner appropriate. We want to get people to the places they want to be and need to be. We have some issues. We have issues with workforce, we have issues with accessibility, and clearly we have issues with public safety. And these are all things that I think that we need to face head on and really look at it and be honest with ourselves. I do think there are ways to improve all of these, but I really want to see that happen. When my youngest child got his first round of vaccines, I asked him what he wanted to do. You know, you get that first taste of freedom, you get to go do something. He wanted to go to a baseball game and ride the train. And I don't know, this is 2 years later, I'm not quite sure he would say that. And so he's probably still want to go to the baseball game, but I'm not as sure about the train. And I want it to be a system that not only people who need it, but the people who want to ride it can. And I think it's a great opportunity for us now. The other thing that I want to touch on very slightly, the next council will spend a lot of time working on the 2050 Regional Development Guide, and that connects with transportation and all the various things that we're talking about. It's the next version of Thrive 2040. My district covers a lot of different communities, and I really think it's important to have voices at the table that understand not only the suburban nature, the rural, but the rural centers and the agriculture communities, and bringing all those voices to the table.
Great, thank you. Council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with community and business stakeholders.
Well, when I saw 20 to 40 hours, I'm like, oh, I get a little break, because I feel like it's a lot more than that. But to tell you the truth, I'm very lucky because I work as a consultant. I have flexible hours, and so that's been very helpful to everything. I think the key to being really successful in this job is really, there's definitely the work at the council. There's definitely work on the committees. There's a lot of work focused on the St. Paul part, but a lot of the real work has to happen in your district. I have a large district with a lot of different communities, as I mentioned earlier, and really the key to know what the communities need is to go out and meet with them where they are, whether it's, out in Belle Plaine, out in Northern America, here in Savage. I know the mayor quite well. And you want to be able to know that you're accessible for the citizens, for the businesses, for the communities that you're talking to, because you'd much rather be in those conversations now than trying to fix something down the road. And I think that's how I've managed to be very effective, is to make sure that I'm very active in the communities, and I know the people by name, and they know they can get in touch with me. And I carry those messages back to St. Paul when I'm trying to get policies introduced. Like I said, I want policies that work. They work in Minneapolis and they'll work in Waconia. And that is really critical, because when you're looking at a region that has so many kinds of communities, you have to take that lens to it. But I don't know those messages to communicate unless I'm out in my communities talking with the people themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, what have you done to advance equity in the district, community, or the organizations you've worked with?
Certainly. We are an award-winning region in so many ways, but we continue to have challenges around equity and disparities. I think both equity, both racial and socioeconomic, will continue to be one of our biggest challenges in the next few years. My interest in equity really came early with my involvement with my children's schools. My hometown of Shakopee is actually very diverse. It's quite a diverse town. And you could see at the school that there were a lot of people whose voices weren't being heard as much. And I noticed this through actually the parent-teacher organization, PTO meetings. You would go to the meetings and it was not representative of the kids in the school, because there were a lot of immigrant communities. So we started to do things like bring in interpreters and stuff like that, because we wanted to broaden the base of parents who had the access to have the same discussions. That translated into working with a group of locals in Shakopee, where we formed the Shakopee Diversity Alliance. We wanted these communities to have a forum, to have a voice. And that community, that group now is going, I'd be close to 10 years now, but they've really taken an active role in the community, and I think the best part of it is it's no longer people like me sitting there on it. It is the diverse leaders from the community who are now stepping up into leadership roles into that group. Another area that has been really important to me, and it's both personal and professional, is the relationship with tribal communities. My husband is Native, my children are descendants. The Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community, or SMSC, is the only tribal nation that resides entirely within the metropolitan region and within District 4, in fact. Throughout my time at council, one of the first things I did was try to develop increased outreach to SMSC. We worked with them on different land use conversations between them and the surrounding communities. We went out and brought different regional plans to them. And it really led to better data for the planning that's happening down in this area of the region. I would say out of that, one of my main accomplishments was working with our staff to develop the first tribal relations policy. Since that policy, we've expanded it and implemented, and actually something that happened yesterday was something that made me very, very happy. We're in the process also of, along with the next version of the development guide, we're working on the transportation policy plan. And one of the conversation is we had to go out to different communities and counties and things. And so, yes, of course, we're going out to all the counties, but without me prompting anybody and all of that, it was, and we're going to make sure we have to go out to these tribal nations as well. And to me, it's one thing to make a policy and it lands on a shelf, but was seeing it actually translated into practice. And that's really at council. If we want to do good equity work, it has to be like that, where it's built into your practice. So you can't take it away from it. And that's really critical to that process.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions from the members? 1 minute. If not, if you have any last remarks you'd like to make, please feel free to.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again. I do know this takes a lot of time, so we really do appreciate it. Just overall, I think it's really important to note that we're just stronger when we work together as a region. I think this district needs a strong voice. Like I said, it's a big district, and I think it's really important to have that and somebody who understands the council and the different kind of communities that you represent out here. With my background in community ties, I believe I can still be that person, and I hope that you will consider recommending me for reappointment. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I hope to see you back in District 4 again, maybe sometime.
Is Myron Bratsch here? Perfect. Please approach the table. Feel free to grab some water if you'd like.
I'm fine.
All right. But welcome and thank you for your interest in the Met Council and serving as a council member. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last, and share your pronouns if you'd prefer.
My name is Myron Bratsch. Last name is Bratsch. I live in the District 4 in the southern part. I've lived there all my life. I've lived on a family farm. My wife and I have lived there all our life. We just have a small hobby farm of 120 acres, but I also work in the cities as a senior laser consultant. What that is building large manufacturing laser cutting and drilling machines, and I've traveled all over the world installing and servicing them. But now within the last 5 years, my wife has had a medical condition, so I need to not travel anymore. So now I just drive to the plant and always put together the machines and do tech support. I've been involved in local government, the township where I live in. I've been elected for 10 plus years as the treasurer for that organization. So I've been involved with MAT, the Minnesota Association of Townships, and all that aspect for 10 plus years.
Great, thank you. We'll move to the questions.
Good evening. The first question is, what policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
I think the issue for really general government, like what the Metropolitan Council is transportation. You need to have a good infrastructure for everything to thrive. If you want to have a community like the Twin City area here to thrive, we need to have a good infrastructure, whether it be in roads, to light rail, to mass transit, to all that type of things. We need to have good infrastructure for that to promote well-being with family, promote business, all of the above. If you have a good infrastructure, everything else just falls in place. So I'd like to do more of that and to correct, like I said, I've been the treasurer for so long, to be able to spend within your means. That's very important when it comes to government ruling, is to spend within your means.
Okay. Council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with community and business stakeholders.
Well, I also am a small business owner. I am a consultant for this manufacturing company, so I'm not really an employee, so I have opportunity to go to various meetings and everything like that. And with my experience with local government, I think it's important to go like for the regional, it'd be like all your county commissioners, going to like Scott County Commissioner meetings, going to like Carver County and all the commissioner meetings. You get to hear what the issues are in the region when you go to those meetings. They're all planning commissions. So all the issues of what their growth, what they're struggling with, you're going to hear at those type of meetings. I've also been involved with the annexation with Belle Plaine Township and City of Belle Plaine. So I hear all the issues for growing and like the 2040 comp plan and the 2030. I'm involved with the 2030, 2040, and 2050 is coming up. So I've been involved with all of that, with all the county planning and the city planning for Belle Plaine. So you get to see what the plan actually is and what we have to do. One of the things that I was on there for the annexation committee is they were looking at expanding the weather alert system. And they were looking at, we have all these lots in there. They're going to put it in the middle of this open field where they're going to have it so there's no houses there right now. And I said, well, we have this whole comp plan here. Why wouldn't you put that alert system in the park that's going to be designated for a park? Because people are not going to want to have that tower right in their backyard. Rather put it in a park. And most of the time when people are in a park, that's where you want to alert them first anyhow to get to a safe residence to seek cover. So I think just visiting and people getting back to going to the city council meetings too, like in Waconia and in the northern metro, that part of Watertown, as far as we reach up there as District 4, just going to those meetings, you get to hear what the people that are attending those meetings, the issues. You may hear it a lot in the general community and in the papers and stuff, but if you go to those type of meetings, you get to hear the issues and what the problems they're up against.
Thank you.
Thank you. What work have you done to advance equity in your district, community, or an organization that you've worked with?
Well, as I've said, I'm the elected treasurer for Belle Plaine Township. I don't have a voting interest for voting on everything, but I'm the senior person on the township, on the council. But so I always vote, whenever I say something, I'll say, as a resident of Belle Plaine Township, I can provide a recommendation. When I took office, there was very little in our coffer for money to fall back on. After about 5 years, I was able to get 2.5 times our annual levy, which is a healthy township to be at. Mm-hmm. We've had a number of FEMA events that came through, natural disasters, where we had the funds to repair bridges and roads that washed out and that stuff. We had a neighboring township that the roads all washed out and they didn't have the money. Mm-hmm. You have to have the money to do that before you can actually repair the roads. They want to be paid right away. So I was able to get the FEMA money, and also with the whole American Rescue Plan, I've been getting all the funds available to the township as far as like the Metropolitan Council too. There's a lot of money with that American Rescue Plan that can be adjusted for various issues that are in front of the council for transit and all that type of things. There's things that can be used for that. So it's fiscally, like I've said before, spending within your means. And I've always come up with the levy for the township. Our township levy I never raised as far as the roads in our township, the levy for that for 10 years. I've always spent within our means. We always look at the projects, okay, what can we do this project this year? And I say, no, we should probably do this and do this the next year. Planning ahead and keeping an even budget so that you can always have that money there when you need it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any follow-up questions from the committee? Not seeing any closing remarks you'd like to share with us, Mr. Bratsch?
I just want to thank you very much for all your time and effort. I know it's sending a lot of interview meetings like this. It takes a lot of time away from your family, and the main thing that everyone lives for is family time. So I appreciate you putting forth your time and effort.
Great, thank you. Thanks for spending time with us. And next is Derek Gunderson in the room. All right. Welcome, and thank you for your interest in the Met Council and sharing as a council member. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last, and sharing your pronouns if you'd like.
Derek Gunderson, Gunderson, he, him.
Great. Any opening remarks you'd like to share before we move to questions?
Just like to thank the nominating committee for bringing me in. I appreciate it. Mary Williams, thanks for Savage to host this. It's nice to be back in my hometown. I lived in Savage from 93 to 99. So.
Great. Thank you.
All right, good evening. What policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
Well, for me, this question's a little bit like asking somebody who their favorite child is. I say that because each issue has its positives and negatives, but each has to be shown a little bit of the love. If you concentrate on one too much or not enough, it's going to affect the outcome of the others. The success, because they're so interrelated, in transportation and housing, you look at things like where a road's going to be or where a particular housing project is going to be in relation to that road. How much planning goes into what exits you're going to use, what type of funding or housing it's going to be, from multifamily or single family or affordable or workforce. What are some of the things that are going to bring you or bring people to those areas? Our discussions when I'm in council meetings at the City of Victoria routinely involve transportation issues, ranging from how Victorians can access public transportation options to creating better intracity roads to your everyday street maintenance. But transportation discussions don't happen in silos. They often are interrelated with housing, where we discuss issues on how new developments or redevelopment can improve first responder times by connecting streets or improving the road condition. Again, transportation discussions also lead to how we can vary our housing stocks with high-density projects, where high-density projects should be located, the scope of those projects, and the type of industries that may relocate to Victoria, depending on how well received those projects are received. To answer the second part of the question, why these two topics? Well, someone who has reliable transportation, no matter the mode, traveling on dependable infrastructure, coming from housing that they feel safe, tend to be happier. Happier people tend to be more productive. More productive people tend to make employers happy. Happy employers lead to new facilities. New facilities lead to new revenue for communities, and the cycle repeats itself. And so how we create our communities is cyclical. And we're, as I've said in council meetings before, we're just stewards of what we're doing. So the more planning we can put into things, the better result for our communities.
Okay. The next question is about public engagement. So council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with community and business stakeholders.
Well, quite honestly, it wouldn't change much from what I'm doing currently. Reaching out to local businesses, reaching out to other community leaders within the communities that are in District 4, creating relationships. I've done this as a council person for the City of Victoria, reaching out to the mayors of Jordan, Prior Lake, Carver, Chan, Chaska, to name some of the mayors that I have relationships with, that if a project in Victoria relates to one of their communities or may affect one of their communities, I can pick up the phone and call those mayors and other council members to say, how's this look in your community? Because they're the elected leaders, and they may have a pulse on what their community feels about a particular project. So it wouldn't change a whole lot. It would, if anything, be able to allow me to spend more time in the district getting to know the businesses and the people of the district. One example of this would be a project that we had that affects Highway 5 with a development project that has a business that'd like to put in to develop a green space. But it's across the street, across Highway 5 from one of Victoria's longest residing businesses. And creating an intersection in that particular location would have, or in the way that it was originally designed, would have shut access to a business that depends on access, thus probably shutting down that business, a business that's been there over 30 years. Being able to have the conversation and keep the project going so that it didn't die, we continue to have conversations with both sides to see what worked. Now, some things have fallen into place where we've been able to purchase new land for a new fire department, which means our fire department wouldn't be affected, and be able to adjust the access so that it doesn't affect the current business, and may allow, depending on how the project shakes out, because I haven't seen anything new, but may allow for this new business to come in, which would be great for Victoria and the region. So I would continue to do it, and I've never been one to be shy. If I don't know somebody, I'll walk up and say hi, sit down, have a conversation to find out what they're all about and who they are, no matter where they're from or what they have to do. And it may be just that 5-minute interaction, but it may also lead to something better.
Okay. The third question is, what have you done to advance equity in the district, community, or an organization you've worked with?
Well, I'm always conscious of how I or groups I'm a part of include voices or experience that are not mine. As chair of Carver County's Mental Health Advisory Council, I've been effective in expanding the number of members to include a broader range of experiences. As more experiences are shared, it allows the county to identify any blind spots and services not being offered and the effectiveness of current services. I've had the privilege of voting to appoint and to serve with Victoria's first male person of color. By advancing equity, but advancing equity isn't about what I've done. It's about applying what I've learned about communities, projects, and the people and applying that to my evaluation process. I'm a naturally curious person. I like learning about others' experiences and what shapes their decision-making. This helps me better understand how a project may affect a particular population or community. Because once we better understand the hows and whys of someone's decision-making, the better equipped we are to address what needs to be done and to have the courage to ask the difficult questions. If you've ever watched, and I'm probably sure you haven't, a Victoria Council meeting, they're riveting. I'm typically the one asking a difficult question, a question that could have put someone on the spot or make them feel uncomfortable. And it's not because I want to make them feel uncomfortable, but it's necessity to draw the information out that we need. Because we need all of the information to make the best decision for everyone involved as much as possible. Because again, we're stewards of the responsibilities that I have, or I'm just a steward of the responsibilities that I have. The decisions I make now will be lasting into the future. I'm a dad of 3 kids. 2 minutes. And the decisions that I make are going to affect them. I want them to be proud of the city that they come from so that they can come back to it. I want them to be proud of the community that they come from so that they come back to it. And if they go out into the greater world, they can be proud and say, that's the community I came from. Again, being naturally curious, it excites me to meet new people, bring in new voices, and bring in new opportunities to the region. Planning is important, how we get people to and from their homes to their work in today's environment, even after it's changed post-pandemic. Looking at new ways of working and where people are working and how people are working are going to be important. I appreciate the time of the nominating committee and happy to answer any questions with the remaining time.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? 1 minute. All right, and if you want to offer closing remarks before your time is up, please feel free to.
I've lived in Eden Prairie, Savage, Victoria, for well over half my life. Burnsville, just outside the district, which would encompass everything but the 5 years that I lived in Winona and Milwaukee. I've seen the region grow to the point where McCall was a 2-lane snake road that my mom lamented the fact that I was going to grow up driving on it and learning to drive on it because it wasn't safe. Now it's a 4-lane, well-lit, great road to come in on. And those things make an impact on people when you can see what it was and then what it's become. And those are the projects and the things that I'd love to work on. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Members, and we do have all candidates who are here for District 15. So we are planning on proceeding and receiving those candidates as well now. Everyone okay with that? Great. All right, welcome. Phil Sterner, if you're here, please come ahead. We are moving on to District 15 now. We are starting sooner than anticipated, so hopefully you don't feel rushed. But both of our interviewees are here, so we would like to utilize your time effectively as well.
Thank you.
We would love to go through a round of introductions so you know who is on the nominating committee as well before we get into your interview. So we'll go ahead and start on the far right.
David Dively, thank you.
Melissa Maderscheid.
Adriana Jareb.
Mohammed Ali Noor.
Heidi Garrido.
There will be a quiz on this later, by the way. Dave Bartholomew.
Fatima Moore.
Janet Williams.
Molly Cummings.
Sam Rockwell.
I know you get at least one quiz question right with me, Paul Gardner.
Okay, all right. Jim Erickson. Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, welcome and thank you for your interest in the Met Council and serving as a council member. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last, and share your pronouns if you'd like.
Okay, thank you. Well, my name is Phillip Sterner. It's Sterner, and I'm sometimes commonly referred to as Phil. Probably 9 out of 10 people call me Phil. I'm a he, him pronoun, but identify closely with women because I have 3 older sisters, 4 daughters, and my 90-year-old mom just had a birthday last month. So women are really big in my life, so I'm very comfortable with either pronouns for myself or being around pronouns.
Happy birthday to your mom.
All right, thank you. And so I'm a father of 5, and my dad was a veteran in the Air Force, 22 years, so we moved around a lot. When I was a young kid, I lived in Germany for kindergarten through 2nd grade, and I later on became an exchange student to Brazil with AFS, and that good opportunities for me. So I do hold a dual citizenship, believe it or not, with it. And I've gone to Guatemala, work with Sister Perry's. I've went there 3 times the last 12 years, and I plan on going this summer again, where we have a relationship with a community in Guatemala City down there. So that's pretty much, the biggest one is I've lived in Dakota County for over 50 years. 3 cities, all with over 10 years. Burnsville, where I live right now, and Rosemont, I raised my family, in Apple Valley, where we have a small business since 1974. It's been in Apple Valley the whole time. So that's where I am here. So, all right, you can ask me the question.
Yeah,
I guess.
absolutely. So
Okay.
we do have 3 questions, and each a member will ask you that question. Your time technically starts once we start those questions.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and begin.
All right, good evening. What policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
Well, that one was a very interesting. I was looking at that for a while, and it's kind of tricky, but the one is people. That's why I'm here. It's people is the issue. The court go together, and when you look at it, people need to have a way to get to work with everything from walkability, wheelability, to be on a safe and secure transit plan. They also need to have clean water to drink, fish in, and recreate in as well, and that's important. 1 drop of water, one Minnesota. It's huge.
And then housing. I mean, if you're worried about housing, where to go, need to have a nice, secure place that's warm and ready to go housing. And where we get solve some of our mental health issues and be able to recreate outside with really nice parks, with play experiences that all people, all walks of life can do it. So that's what I would say. The policy issue is people, and you have to put people first. We basically, say is, if you don't screw it up for the people, just don't do any, harm to them and such. So that's what I feel important with it. So I'll take time later on for that, but that's what I would say the policy issue is. But if you wanted to put like the one, I mean, we have the safety and security, transportation is big, and we need to work with our union brothers and sisters that actually operate the trains and buses every day for it, and also be able to work with our police officers where they're seeing it, so we can get it safe, and we need to communicate that to the public, that's safe, and what's what we're doing, and make sure that's one. So our communication needs to be pretty impeccable as well.
Council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to in your district with community and business stakeholders.
Okay, very good. This is kind of like my wheelhouse. It's sort of like a position that's kind of been, designed for me. I just really love it. It's all the things that I do is like bread or butter type issues. So I'm on right now with outside the district, I'm on the Equity Advisory Committee right now. I'm the Transportation Accessibility Advisory Committee. I'm on the Environment Committee and on Transportation as well. And then I'm the liaison to the Clean Water Council as well, where I work on water there. And I also was we had a work task force. I was on the police task force as well. And then I'm also on the Investment Review Committee. So I put my hours on the one side, but I also, being a former city of Rosemont council member and being on a charter school board for quite a few years, and I worked on the Burnsville Y for 9 years on the board, I connect with people quite a bit. So I pretty much go 7 days a week and look at if there's social events. I was at a social event at the American Legion here in Savage just last Saturday and met with some people there and do that. So it's kind of a natural thing. I'll eat breakfast in the community and so on. So I'm willing to put in the work, and I think at Exhibit that's one of my strengths is I am a member of the community, and I'm comfortable with all the county commissioners, the city council members, the commission members, et cetera. So that would be it. All right, thank you.
Okay, question number 3. What have you done to advance equity in your district, community, or an organization that you've worked with?
Okay, and this is kind of a different. What I would say for me, it's like I don't have to force it. To me, it's like moment by moment by moment by moment, I advance equity. It's I work with a fight against Line 3, the pipeline in northern Minnesota, and I'm with one of my friends, Joseph Bester, who's an Indian elder, rooming with him and talking about it. Or I have a family where I look at housing. Over this COVID thing, I actually used my retirement money to buy a few properties, 2 properties, and subleased another one where I saw people who actually were homeless and they're suffering from being felons or addictions or mental health. And I got a couple houses where they rent by the room to put them up in that then. And so I go equity that way. When we're looking for operator jobs, I'm talking to people that don't have a job or looking for operator. I'm talking to people all different realms. Sister Parish with Guatemala. I work with communities there as well. I have a couple of faith communities I go to. One is St. Joan of Arc, where we do a lot of equity and work with an organization called Isaiah as well, where I was at the Capitol just this week, fighting on clean energy for all and such, and housing. I work with Micah and other organizations. So I think it really works like Paul Wellston would say, when we all do better, we all do better. And that's what I believe. A system should work for everybody, equity, and everyone should not necessarily, they have a way at the table, but with the Equity Advisory Committee, some people want things like wealth is different. It's kind of interesting. So my parents just moved into independent living. My dad's independent, but my mom's memory is starting to suffer. So we just had a meeting with the sisters, and a lot of them are pretty high income, But it's like, well, it's unfilled because you don't have as much income. But a lot of it is it's not always the income thing. We can't put our values on other people. Sometimes it's family living 3 generations in a house. Or if you go to Korea, sometimes you're looking good, but it might be a smaller residency in that. So the values, we have to allow people to express what those values are and bring them to us rather than force our values on people. But everybody wants clean water. Everybody wants safe transportation. Everyone wants warm, housing and safe housing. So places to recreate. But those are kind of like the core principles. So if we could do that, then the values will come in, but allow people to bring to us what their needs and wants are.
Thank you.
Any follow-up questions or clarifying questions from the committee? All right. Phil, if you want to give us closing remarks.
Okay, well, I just would really like to get reappointed. I felt like I was getting in the wheelhouse, like we're looking at with water, like we have the Clean Water Council. It's close to being sunsetted, so we're looking at to see why it's so important. I was hoping to kind of work with our Metropolitan Council and DNR, U of M, trying to have like local things or how our projects are working to save water and keep things clean and testing, that kind of thing. I'm also looking at the transportation. I represent 4 of my cities are opt-out carriers with it, and we're trying to match up with how do we work together where we're east and west, so we're not fighting against the same transportation. So I'd like to connect that one, and being Dakota County being the 3rd largest county population and 4th most density, the only thing we have as a rapid line is we have one orange line that goes in the heart of the city, and that's pretty much it. The red line, they don't even consider that a high-speed line. So I want to make sure we get that going again and get the east-west transit going. So I feel like I'm in position to be there to make it happen because as a city council member, I worked on those issues before I got on. And now with our new transportation coordinator going in, we have a new police officer, I feel I'd be the right person to kind of work on those issues as well.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
All right, thanks for being here tonight and having me. Thanks.
And next, we have Tenzin Dolkar. Welcome, and thank you for your interest in the Met Council and serving as a council member. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last, and sharing your pronouns if you'd like.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tenzin Dolkar. Last name is Dolkar, and my pronouns are she and her.
Tenzin, would you like to give any intro statements before we dive into our questions we have for you?
Sure. I want to thank everybody for your time this evening. I come with a deep experience in public policy, coalition building, and community organizing with expertise in transportation, climate, and affordable housing. And I also come as an experienced social worker who has done this work both in Dakota County and Hennepin County over the last 10 years with really granular understanding of the lives of communities, families, and children and how to serve them. And so it's an honor to be here and really appreciate this time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have the first question. What policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
So the 2 areas that I'm going to try to address are the planning piece of the Met Council role and transportation. So Metropolitan Council, as you all know, is a regional planning body. The council will lead the 2050 master plan, which is an opportunity to develop a comprehensive regional growth planning that is sustainable, that is inclusive, and that is equitable. And my perspective on this is council can play a really huge role in partnering with local governments, cities and counties, in making sure that we protect the characteristic and uniqueness and the needs of those communities, as well as look at the regional growth and making sure that our region is strong. It serves the need of the economic growth and business communities the way it needs to. And it also serves as a regional body for the entire state. So that's the first issue that I'm really, really passionate about, because it also impacts sort of what we expect, right, which is the population growth that we expect within the region over the next 10 years, and the affordable housing and housing unit that we need, and making sure that those housing and the infrastructure we need are ready for, and as well as for the disruption that we think are going to come through climate. The second part that I'm really passionate about is transportation. As a social worker, one of my primary jobs was looking for transportation and transit access for families and children I worked with. Where and how I could locate transit services really determined what type of housing, what type of daycare and jobs they went into. So that really early experience influenced how I think about transportation. The other thing that I know is transportation has shown over and over again in studies as a link, close link between social mobility and access to transportation. And I want to make sure, and this is one of the primary responsibility the council currently has, is making sure that everybody in the region has access to affordable, accessible, and sustainable clean transportation. And part of that role is council playing the more of a regional planning body and a partner in operating support to the counties and cities, which is a huge and complex nature of relationship, as well as making sure that we're working with key stakeholders and making sure all communities are feeling like they're being heard in this planning process. The second thing that I really think that is really, really important, and we have shown this really successfully nationally, is transit-oriented development. If we look at where transit lines are, we have shown as a region how affordable housing can be placed in more denser communities that are well connected with mixed housing, mixed use of community growth can really happen along the transit line. We have done this, we have proven this, and I think there's more to do around it. And so those two issues are the two issues that I really care about and would like to work on as a council member.
Okay. Council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Metropolitan Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with community and business stakeholders.
So the key stakeholders that I want to work closely with and want to identify are, one, the local government. I think the 7 counties body and the cities and townships within those communities are really, really important to partner as I represent on the Met Council. The second is business communities that thrive on the structure that the council provides, whether it's the park system that we have or the wastewater system or the housing or the transportation system. So I think that's really, really important. And then the third piece that I come from traditionally is the nonprofit civic engagement side, right? And as I look to the region and I look in the community that I'm currently in, which is the Dakota County, you see an emerging communities and diversifying of the communities. And as we look to 2040 and beyond, we know 40% of the region is going to be diversifying. And so there's something to be said about making sure that policy planning and the structures and practices that the council puts in place are inclusive and responsive to that changing demographic needs, and as well as making sure that our region is thriving and our state continues to be a state that is inclusive and equitable for everybody. And so I think that is my commitment when I serve on a council, that along with the idea of targeted universalism, right? You solve for the lowest denominator, marginalized communities that live in your neighborhood, you can solve for just about everything in terms of public policy planning.
Well, thank you. Our third question is, what have you done to advance equity in your district, community, or an organization that you've worked with?
So I will share sort of 3 anecdotes, and we'll try to keep it really short and not go into a long history. So the first one is really working as a social worker in Dakota County. That is how I started as a social worker and a case manager, trying to help families who were struggling and living in homeless shelter find stability and stabilize housing and access county resources. And I think that was really my foray in learning into making sure that some resources, despite the best intention of the way public policy designs them, are not always accessible to the communities that are really, really struggling. So that's my first equity sort of foray and work into it. The second big accomplishment I have had that I'm really proud of was when I was the council legislative director. I was part of the coalition that worked on securing the first $500,000 to help with the BIPOC homeownership, Black, Indigenous communities of color. This was really a novel concept when I worked on it back then. There was a coalition working on it, and it was really, really hard fought. And so the idea that making sure that everybody has access to affordable housing, and this was right after 2008, and so making sure that people were able to stay in their housing. And so that, I think it's a huge accomplishment that I can speak to as an equity work that I did. And the last piece is what I did over the last 2 years at the City of Minneapolis, which is really help the environmental justice community-based organizations get involved in the city climate planning. Making sure that they had a line in sight and were able to influence the workforce policies of the city as they implemented the climate action plan. And then also led the city's 100% renewable electricity blueprint, which was embedded in community-driven engagement process, as well as making sure that many of the vision that the community groups had over the years were included in it. And so it's one of the most comprehensive work I did around equity planning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions from the committee? Great. With that, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to leave with us?
No, I just want to thank everybody for your time, and I know this is a really hard task, and I appreciate Phil serving over the last 4 years on the Met Council, and I think this is a great opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your time. Members, we would like to invite, there is a member who is here to interview for District 16. Two who are here to introduce for, great. So we'll go ahead and allow them in and then, oh. Yes, so the idea is if we need it now, we can pause. Otherwise, we can take these 2 interviewees and then break right after that until about 9. How does that sound? Yeah? Okay, great. So again, we will move on to District 16 now. All right. Let's get ourselves in order. I'll get myself in order, more like.
Yeah.
And so for District 16, we have, it looks like Wendy Wulff is here. Great. Wendy, please go ahead and come to the table. And while you do that, we'll also start again with a round of introductions for the nomination committee. So we'll go ahead and start with our right and my right and then move on.
David Dively.
Melissa Manderscheid.
Adriana Jareb.
Mohamed Ali Noor.
Heidi Garrido.
Hi, I'm Dave Bartholomew.
Fatima Moore.
Janet Williams.
Molly Cummings.
Sam Rockwell. Paul Gardner.
Great. Thank you, committee members. So, Ms. Wulff, welcome and thank you for your interest in the Met Council and serving as a council member. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last, and sharing your pronouns if you'd like.
Thank you. My name is Wendy Wulff, W-U-L-F-F, she, hers.
Thank you. We would like to offer you a chance to provide a brief intro statement, and then after that, we'll move into our prepared questions for you.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for your work here on the nominating committee. This is actually my 6th time being interviewed. I have served for almost 14 years under 3 governors and 6 chairs. So I've been around for a while and hope to continue.
Great, thank you. We'll move to the questions now.
Finding my papers, sorry. What policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
If the council was a baseball team, I would be a utility player. I kind of go wherever I'm needed and just fill in. But my favorite part of what we do is the wastewater system, and currently I am working on designing a grant program for communities to help people fix their private lateral sewer lines. We've been fixing a lot of the parts of the sewer system that are publicly owned with bonding dollars, but we can't use that on people's private lines. But people get their Roto-Rooter man to clear out the line, and they don't realize that rainwater and groundwater is getting in and overburdening our wastewater systems. We can save a lot of money if we can get that taken care of. We had 2 rounds of one-time money, but we finally got permission from the legislature to have an ongoing program with council funds. And so I am chairing a work group with people from the cities that work in finance and public works and those sorts of things to design a program that will help homeowners fix the service laterals so we can take care of that last piece of the puzzle. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's something we've been working on for a very, very long time.
Okay. Council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with community and business stakeholders.
Like my colleague Deb Barber, doing only 40 hours a month would be a big decrease from what I've been doing. So my husband has a brain injury, and he's been unable to work since 2005, and I'm his caregiver. So I had to give up my business that I own doing web design because, you know, there's just only so many hours in the day, and I can't leave him alone for long periods of time. So being on the council is perfect for me because I can go to a meeting and then come home and make lunch and then go to another meeting. And so I have a very flexible schedule for doing short things. I just can't do long stretches or multiple days of things. And the council has been wonderful to work with me on that. I attend scale meetings with Mayor Williams, and I've been doing that since I got redistricted into part of Scott County 10 years ago. I attend meetings with the Dakota County Mayor Managers Group and the Dakota County Township Board Association. I go to Chamber of Commerce events, and my phone number has been on the council website since 2009, my personal cell phone, and I answer it when people call me. And a lot of people are really surprised that I answer the phone because they're expecting to get an answering machine or a staff person or whatever, and I actually answer the phone and talk to people about all sorts of things. I've had a long relationship with most of these people because I served on the Lakeville City Council before I came to the Met Council, and at the time our mayor was a anesthesiologist, so morning meetings didn't work well for him. So I stood in for the mayor a lot in going to Dakota County things, and so I had a good relationship with mayors in Dakota County before I came to the council. I also meet informally with mayors or anybody else who wants to meet, having lunch just to catch up and get to know each other. Staff knows me to call me when they have problems, and I get calls from all over the region on SAC issues because I'm known as the SAC lady for the council. I've worked on a number of improvements to how we compute SAC to make it more fair and easy to understand, which has cut down on the number of calls considerably. But I do still, if somebody has an issue, they know I'm the one that will answer the phone and work on the problem for them. So I've been doing a lot of time.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Number 3. What have you done to advance equity in your district, community, or an organization that you've worked with?
So I purposely left most of my time for this because I think it's going to take a while for me to answer. So when I was in high school, I suddenly found myself on my own and unable to pay for college. So I joined the military, and I worked closely with people from all sorts of backgrounds. When you're sharing a barracks and working all day, I got to know a lot of different people, and I really liked that exposure to the rest of the world. I ended up, I met my husband through the military. He is half Thai, and his dad was working on equity back in the 1950s when it wasn't even called that. He worked with a group of lepers in northern Thailand. He volunteered at a leper colony and saw that they were sitting around begging and not, feeling like they could ever do anything useful. And so he said, hey, I got an idea, let's do something different. And they went out in the jungle and they built a self-sustaining leper village that became so successful that people who didn't have leprosy moved in. And it's still there today, and it's very successful. I went and visited with my family and shared meals and hung out with people there, and it was a really cool opportunity. But it sort of opened up my world to a whole new way of life. His work was credited as being the inspiration for the Peace Corps concept. So after my husband and I got back from Germany, he had his cancer returned, and I was taking care of him, and he lived in our house for 7 years. And my husband was on the Minneapolis Police Department, and he was one of the first Asian officers that they had. And back then they were, they'd call, I need an Asian-speaking officer, because people didn't even realize that there were different languages. And because of his dad's experience with different groups, both in Thailand and then later doing refugee relocation in Laos, he had a lot of contacts in a bunch of different ethnic groups with the elders. And so my husband and my father-in-law invited some of the elders over to our house, and we're talking with them, and found out there was a lot of misconceptions about how police work is in the United States. They were used to police being corrupt and taking bribes and that sort of thing. And when the cops would put kids in the back seat to just talk with them and try to get some intel, they thought that the cops were telling people what houses to burgle and then give them part of the proceeds from that. So my father-in-law and my husband and I got some of the police leaders to our house too, and got them to create something called the Southeast Asian Community Leaders Forum, where it was the first time anywhere in the US that we're aware of that the Hmong, Cambodian, Lao, and Vietnamese community leaders actually were talking to each other, because traditionally they were not friends, and then also brought them together with the police to help the police understand the Southeast Asian community and the Southeast Asian community leaders and other people that they represented to better understand what the police do. And so that was a pretty cool thing, I thought. I've also done a lot of taking people who need someplace to live into my home, including a Lao gang member from Milwaukee. Her parents wanted to get her away from the gang, and they thought if they sent her out to Lakeville that would help her get away from the gang. So she lived with us for 6 months. But there's a lot of other people that we've had live with us too. And also, with my husband being injured, when he first got hurt, we were very isolated. We didn't really have anybody to talk to about the big changes that we were going through in our life. And so I helped found the Minnesota Association for Injured Peace Officers. We provide mentors for police officers who are catastrophically injured in the line of duty to help them adjust to their new lives. So for the past 15 years or so, my husband and I have been mentoring people, mostly with traumatic brain injuries, but also with other injuries, helping them to figure out how life is going to work under their new situation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Members, do you have any follow-up questions or clarifying questions? Not seeing any. Please leave us with closing remarks.
Just thank you again for your time, and I would be honored to continue to serve in my current role.
Wonderful. Thank you. And next on the list, we have Mark. And I don't want to mispronounce your name, Mark, so I will not. I have many ideas in my head of what it should sound like, but
it's Vaughan.
Vaughan, okay. That's what I was thinking, actually.
That's fine.
So thank you for being here with us and for your interest in the Met Council. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last, and share your pronouns if you'd like.
Thank you. First of all, thanks to the City of Savage for hosting us tonight, and thanks for everyone for taking your time to do this for the Met Council. I really appreciate it. My name is Mark Vaughan. The last name is spelled V as in Victor, A-U-G-H-A-N. I do want to give you a quick snapshot of myself and my family, because I think it helps to show who I am. As you can see from my application, I'm a public servant. This includes 8 years. I just finished the City Council in Hastings, And before that, I was on 12 years of commission work with the Planning, Parks and Recreation, and Charter Commission. I got 30 years in Parks and Recreation. I worked for the City of Apple Valley, City of Hastings, City of Rosemount, full-time at the City of Northfield. In the last 27 years, I've been over at the City of Egan. I run the Civic Arena Forum, and I run the Regional Water Park of Cascade Bay. I got a pretty good career, I got to admit. It's a good gig. My wife and I chose to move back to Hastings to raise our 3 girls. Our oldest has just graduated from the University of North Dakota. Our twins are sophomores in college, one at the University of Minnesota, the other one at St. Ben's, to be a nurse just like her mom. As I reflect back on my public service, I was able to include, and this includes my family, to see residents watch, participate, and engage. And hopefully I was trying to be a good role model for all of them. And I think that was important in public service. That's why I do what I do today. I look for every opportunity to engage with residents, and I think you'll hear about that today from me, so I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thanks for that intro. Now we have our prepared questions for you.
All right, good evening. What policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
Thank you. I try not to look at policies. Policy is more of an opportunity for me. I try not to use it as an issue or use that lens of that. In public service, we always have a chance to serve and share and listen to everybody else. I think it's good public policy to start with listening. As a former city council member, I can honestly say all of the areas that Met Council do are intrigued to me. I'm really interested in them, but I can't pick one. But if I had to pick one today, it's going to be transportation. I support rail. Recently, I was the chair of the Great River Rail Commission when we were successful finally getting the second train from Chicago to St. Paul. I didn't do it by myself. We had a great commission. We had a great vision from everybody from St. Paul to La Crosse. It took a lot of collaboration to get that done. The mayors in Hastings appointed me to the Red Rock Corridor in Hastings, so I sat on that commission. I brought the perspective of being at the end. Hastings is on the end of a Red Rock, and I needed to share our residents' vision for that. But it's also on the edge of this Met Council, so it was good to give that perspective of what it's like to be on the outside of this. Like a regional cooperation required of Met Council, I had to work to build consensus. Local, state, regional leaders. I sought out to inform rail transit, but we had to look at the community, we had to look at the commuters, we had to look at environmental needs, and we had to look at safety. That was all important to get to where we are. So I think transportation is really important to me. But you can see from my application, parks, it's near and dear to me. Our parks and open spaces, I think, are valuable. I think it's one of the best things that we can offer for people to get a chance to gather in a public open space. I can share that I believe, I know, during the pandemic, our parks system got used probably the highest in 30 years. So that's near and dear to me. So I really like the parks and open space, and I think it's important that we continue that. Thank you.
Second question. Council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with community and business stakeholders.
Yeah, in the past 8 years, you started to kind of learn the rhythm of, and our family had to, of public meeting and public service. It's nights, it's weekends, it's a lot of commitment to do that, but I think I have to expand that. I think it needs to be bigger. We went to city council meetings, we went to regional meetings, we got to know what the residents wanted. I think I'll continue that. I need to expand that because business tours were so important. We learned from the business people that owned it, and I think I need to expand that. If I'm selected for this, it's a large district. I got to listen to the residents. I got to listen to business owners from Hastings all the way to the other side. I'm up for it. My family understands the commitment. That's why I share about them because they grew up with this with me, watching me do this, and they were engaged with it. So I think it's important that I need to keep expanding it. I've always found it was important just to communicate. And the best part about communicating, and I learned this early in my council career, is be consistent. We need to engage with the community, but we need to make sure it's accurate and accessible information. Sometimes we start to all be the communicator and get the words out. I learned the hard way. The best way to do that is make sure we all are one voice and make sure we point the residents on where to go get that information and share who those experts are. My role was always just to represent. I was trying to find the answer for them because there's no way I could get the answer to everything that they were asking for. So it's a big commitment. I'm looking forward to it. I would love to represent even more people than I did before. Thank you.
Okay, question number 3. What have you done to advance equity in your district, community, or an organization that you've worked with?
I believe equity is going to start with listening. It's that simple. We got to know our history. We got to know the different parts of the community within the District 16, which has rural, suburban, small towns. It has townships. It has high-density areas. It's a pretty unique district, I believe, for the Met Council. But I want to give a quick story that in our own community that a lot of people didn't know about. An example was in about 1907, we had the burning of the Brown Chapel in Hastings. It was a turn of the century. Hastings actually had a growing black population until a fire burned down that chapel. The arson of the Brown Chapel was never found, and very few people knew about this ugly incident. I was one of them. We actually had some residents come forward and say, we need to gather, and they actually found a descendant from that black family to come together and to heal. They came together to organize, but they came mostly part to educate, and we really started to support them. I think that was clearly the best thing we could do, is to let the residents do a lot of the work. They really wanted to get out there, and we supported them. We kept giving them more opportunities to do that. That was just an example, but I think advancing equity begins with understanding the past, and we got to know what the present is. I think I'd like to share, when you use the word advance, we can't stop. We really need to figure out this answer to equity and just keep, and not quit working. I'm in Parks and Recreation. We look for areas where we're missing the service, and then we go figure out how we're going to get there and provide that opportunity. That's why Parks and Rec is near and dear to me. I think it is one of the best answers to help with our equity challenges that we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any clarifying questions or follow-up questions? And with that, please feel free to leave us with closing remarks.
Just thank you, everyone. As you can see from my application and the quick few minutes that we had here, I am a public servant. I do it during the day. I do it at night. I can't get enough of it. I really look for this opportunity. I hope I get your recommendation because I think it's great to see what else we can do, see where the connections are. I think I have the personality to connect with other colleagues, and I think I got the personality to connect with the people. And ultimately, this position, in my opinion, just like I did as a city council member, I represent. I want to listen to people. I want to try to bring it in. I can't do it all myself. It's going to take a lot of people to do what we're doing, just like you guys are doing here today. I think it's important. Thank you.
Thanks for spending time with us. Thank you. And with that, we will take a break until about 9. Great. Well, we are back, everyone, and we are going to finish up the interviews for District 3. And with us is Johnson Stewart. Great, welcome. We will go through a round of introductions so you know who is on the committee, and then we'll proceed with our questions for you.
Excellent, thanks.
Go ahead and start on my right.
David Dively.
Melissa Vanderscheid.
Adriana Jarab.
Mohammed Ali Noor.
Heidi Garrido.
I am Dave Bartholomew.
Fatima Moore.
Janet Williams.
Molly Cummings.
Sam Rockwell. Paul Gardner.
Jim Erickson.
All right, thank you. Welcome and thank you for your interest in the Met Council and serving as a council member. Please introduce yourself by saying your full name, spelling your last name, and share your pronouns if you would like.
All right, well, thank you. And thank you so much for accommodating. I teach at the university and I had a class tonight, so I'm so grateful that you allowed me to come. My name is Johnson Stewart. My last name is actually just plain old Stewart, Stewart, and my pronouns are she, her.
Thank you. If you would like to give a brief intro statement before we go through our questions for you, please feel free to.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you again for allowing me to be here. Some of you may know that I just finished my first and only term in the Minnesota Senate. I am a civil engineer. I teach at the University of Minnesota. I've been there for about 25 years in both the civil engineering and construction management program. In anticipation of being a senator for a long time, I sold my business. And that didn't work out so great for me. No, actually, it was fine because even as a senator, I was starting to get a little nervous about the conflict of interest that was perceived, while it was not indeed true as per council. But so I sold my business and was redistricted into a district that was majority not my district. So I chose not to run again through the endorsement process, and I'm really looking for another way to continue serving. My passion is infrastructure. My past company has many, many contracts with Met Council. I said in my application that I'm probably the only council applicant who's actually been in a sewer. I was just in one in December. We do a lot of inspection on lining and weirs and lift stations and all that stuff. So I love sewage, but I also love transit. And I'm really a proponent of Met Council, and I'd love to be a part of it.
Thank you. We'll proceed to the questions.
All right, I have the first question. What policy issue before the Metropolitan Council are you most interested in addressing and why?
So as I said, I've worked with Met Council in a variety of ways. I've been in the sewers and in the trenches, literally, and I've also worked on every light rail project, both in design and construction. I've worked on a lot of the transit systems that Met Council is responsible for as well. And my career has spanned the last 36 years. Sewage treatment is extremely important. That's my first degree. And believe it or not, I'm passionate about sewage. I think it's a very smart thing to have a collaborative agreement with so many communities to have us efficiently treat our sewage, and that's a core component of the work Met Council does. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think Met Council is often only seen for their transit and their planning and for their parks. And as far as I'm concerned, when I was in the Senate, I'm a Democrat, and people were saying, I eliminate the Met Council. I thought, well, good luck when you flush your toilet. So anyway, as much as I care about sewage, the policy issue that I'm most interested in addressing is how we as a region will respond to the changes in travel and work behavior since the pandemic. Metro Transit ridership has not recovered since March of 2020, and that's no surprise. People have found new ways to work. We have a transit system that is centered on many workers going to the core cities. I am a huge transit advocate. That's one of the reasons I ran for Senate. And I want to make sure that the Botno or the Blue Line is completed, as well as Southwest, of course. I see that both as an equity issue and a system quality issue. But I also want to work to make sure that our systems are successful and return to the days when we had the best transit system in the nation. It was actually just a few years ago. Met Council's mission is to foster efficient and economic growth for a prosperous metropolitan region. That cannot happen without two healthy downtowns, Minneapolis and St. Paul. Transit plays a big role in that. Met Council has an enormous investment in our current transit infrastructure. For it to be successful, it needs to be complete and provide comprehensive transportation to the entire region. It also needs to be ridden. And frankly, most importantly, it needs to be safe. Our ridership has not rebounded for a variety of reasons. Some of those riders will never return, and some are afraid to come back because of crime. Without a question, some people have no choice but to get back on transit. It is a basic and extremely critical need. Many users did not change their travel behavior because they weren't able to. They did not have the kind of jobs where their hours or location was changed during the pandemic. So we must remember them, and it is a core constituency we must continue to serve. We owe it to them to make sure that our system continues to be safe and efficient and get them where they need to go. Met Council must maintain the ability to construct and develop its entire transit system, which frankly, as you know, is in jeopardy right now because of budget and schedule overruns on Southwest. I want to work to get people back on the trains and in the buses and back to the downtowns. The Twin Cities is an economic driver for our entire state. It is Met Council's job to see that the metro region is prosperous. And as a council person, I will work with our regional communities to collaborate, find compromise, and creatively solve our current infrastructure problems. I really want to see Southwest and the Blue Line completed and many people using them in all directions. And I want to see Met Council's reputation restored. That is the policy I will work very hard on. Thank you.
Council members must dedicate 20 to 40 hours monthly for Met Council and committee meetings and district-specific public engagement with stakeholders. Tell us about the public engagement you commit to doing in your district with community and business stakeholders.
All right. Well, as you know, I'm looking for a job right now. Just kidding. I have plenty to do. But I am passionate about this work. I hope as a Met Council member to serve on either the Transportation or the Environment Committee. I'll continue to be involved in some of the things that I did as a legislator, for example, the 55 Corridor Commission. I enjoy working on that with Judy Johnson and with others, all the way out to Buffalo. I think it's a really core line and an important one for our entire system. So there's a lot of things that I got involved in as a senator, and I'll continue to do that. Now, while I was preparing to run in the new Senate District 45, which, as I said, I didn't get the endorsement, so I didn't run, I had met with every public works director and every engineer in the 19 communities that comprise that district. Because as a civil engineer, I understood that while they share many sewer infrastructure pieces, and I don't know how much you guys know about the system, but for example, one's community sewage flows into another's, and then it gets into your interceptors. A lot of their water lines are dependent on each other. So, for example, Minnetonka Beach shares water with Long Lake, and so they reconstructed their water towers so that they would have equal pressure if one went bad. I think it's really important. At the time, I talked about collaborating and getting a group together monthly or quarterly just to make sure that their sewer, water, and transportation infrastructure was maintained, that they were finding efficiencies and working together, and I think that's a perfect role as a Met Council member, especially as a member of a committee, but even if I'm not, that's a very natural thing for me. So transit is equally important to the western suburbs. There's many things that as their Met Council representative I would be interested in collaborating with. Now that's just the employed side, the public works directors and the engineers. I also would be interested in meeting with their council people and their board members, making sure they know who I was so that as we were going for grants or looking at financing or taxes, they knew that they had a resource in me. And then even though I only served 2 years, I made some very good friends and some connections. I was on the bonding committee and the transportation committee. I would hope to continue to use those relationships to serve my constituents and then also to advocate for their projects at the Capitol. I'm not sure how much time I have, so I'm a teacher. I could talk for 2 hours. Yeah. So I'm really being careful. Plus, I have laryngitis, so I apologize.
Okay, question number 3. What have you done to advance equity in your district? community or any organization that you're involved with?
So two things. I care very much about transportation and the environment, infrastructure, sewage. And I ran for the Senate because of that. I wanted to make sure that we were adequately funding our systems. I think that's an equity issue. I think everybody in the state, everybody in the nation, frankly, everybody in the world should have clean water. And it shouldn't matter where you live or what your community's property tax base is. As a member of the bonding committee, I traveled the entire state. I saw lots of communities where, Wilder is an example. They have 25 houses and they need a $4 million sewer. It shouldn't matter if they choose to live in a rural community or if they choose to live in North Minneapolis or wherever. Everybody should have clean water. They should have their sewage treated in the way that's appropriate, and they should have transit. I stood up on the floor and I talked about the fact that something like a half of rural transit users wouldn't get to work if not for rural transit systems, so I'm aware of that too. I want to make sure you know one more thing about me. I'm really passionate about workforce development, which is an equity issue. I've taught at the U for 20 years. Much of that time has been reaching out to children all the way up to adults who come back to the university. I taught at Dunwoody and St. Paul Tech for workforce retraining. I have worked with MnDOT for the last 25 years to create workforce training programs for people coming into MnDOT, cities, counties, and townships, non-traditionally, so they don't come with a college degree or even an associate's degree. And I train them through, I've developed probably 30 courses for MnDOT, and I'm really proud of that work. I'm also the LTAP engineer at Minnesota CTS, and that's a program where I teach maintenance workers from the state down to the township how to maintain their infrastructure. I think that's an equity issue because it allows people to have really good jobs. Now I got a whole minute. I got a lot to say in a minute. I've also worked with MnDOT to create small business development training programs, both in construction trades, but also in inspection and design, in order to increase the amount of minority participation in traditionally non-minority fields. So, for example, I've been out to the Indian reservations with MnDOT several times, trying to create jobs for Native Americans. These are good jobs. We need to meet the minority goals on every project in the state. MnDOT has historically been terrible at that. And so we're going out to the tribes. I've done it several times, teaching them how to place concrete, but also how to inspect it. So that hopefully they can work for MnDOT districts or counties. The counties desperately need people. And frankly, one of the places that we can find diversity is on the reservations. I've also been in South Minneapolis doing the same work. I care a lot about our infrastructure, but I also think it's a great way for people to get to work with what I call house buying jobs. The jobs, paying $25 to $30 an hour literally can change their life. So, sorry I went so fast.
No.
I have it all
Thank
wrong
you.
if you want to see my comment.
Thank you. Members, do you have any follow-up questions or? Great, not seeing any. Please feel free to leave us with the closing remark as well.
Well, I think Met Council's work is extremely important. I think it is, I've talked to my Hennepin County Commissioner friends, I've talked to Senator Dibble and Representative Hornstein. We have to get the Blue Line built. It's an equity issue. I'm not sold. I want it to be light rail. I'm happy if it's BRT, but it doesn't matter. It has to be an excellent, efficient system to build out the entire system, and I'm very passionate about that. Again, I don't want to take sewage for granted, and I want to acknowledge the fine work that Met Council does in treating sewage and doing a great work at allowing communities to collaborate with each other if they need whatever. Anyway, what I mean by that is I don't want to ignore that. I don't want to ignore the work you do in regional planning or in housing, which is extremely important. I'm passionate about that, or in parks. But I really think that right now, at the point where we are with $1 billion investment in Southwest, we have to absolutely make sure that gets built. We have to make sure Botno gets built. I call it Botno because I've been working on it for 20 years. But I really want to be an advocate for transit and for the work that you do.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you letting me keep my class tonight because I was caught between a rock and a hard place. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And with that, we are finished with our interviewees for tonight. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.